Hey hackers, Blue Cosmo here. Today I wanted to show you guys a deep dive of PE files or portable executable files. So this is what a basic PE file looks like. This is kind of the structure of one, right? And you can see a PE file is simply a file that is executable on Windows. It has a .exe or a .dll. We'll kind of dive into both of those to kind of clarify some things that you guys may be confused on. But basically these PE files, at least when it comes to exes, they have two sections, right? They have headers and sections. Headers are just general information about the portable executable. So the header gives us information about like where certain areas of the PE are, different kind of contents and stuff like that. Well, sections are the actual kind of like code and contents of the actual executable, right? The header is almost like metadata if you're familiar with it, right? But the sections are the actual program itself, the code, the imports, and the actual data and all of that. Of course, I'll leave this image and any other references in the description to help you guys out a little bit. But yeah, so today we're going to be kind of making our own PE files with the C programming language, C++ programming language, and hopefully it should be something enjoyable. So let's make a directory. I'll call this PE deep dive, and we'll go ahead and code our current directory. I'm just using Visual Studio Code as long as the x64 native tools command prompt that comes with the Visual Studio application. So if we kind of open up deep dive, we don't really have anything in there yet. So let's go ahead and create a file. I'll just echo nothing into example exe.c++. So I actually meant to move this example into our PE deep dive. That was on me. Oh, I'm still used to the Linux syntax move. One of the first things we're going to start doing with our C program is actually just getting some general imports into here. So we'll just go ahead and include. I'm going to use IOStream simply because if you guys are a beginner, that's what you guys are going to be using, either that or the standard IO. But I know most people start with IOStream. So I want to make sure this is as easy to follow as possible. I misspelled include. That's on me. Include. Oops. Cool. So that's the first thing we want to do is just include IOStream, right? Just get the basic standard imports in here. And we're going to use the standard namespace. So namespace std. Cool. Obviously, I can't explain everything to you guys, right? So I'm explaining how PE files work. So you do need to have some prerequisite understanding of C programming, or just some basic programming. Even if you haven't done C, this should be pretty easy to follow with. So hopefully it isn't too bad, right? So our code always starts in a main function. So we can do main void, and then start working on our main function. And this main function is going to be where all of our main code is executed, right? This is the first thing that's executed in our binary. So when we do compile this to a portable executable, most notably an exe, it's going to use that main function right here. So let's do something very simple. Let's just do like a hello world. So we'll do cout hello world. Cool. And we can go ahead and end the line as well. So I think that's about it. All we have to do is just return 0 because we have our function type as a integer. So we need to return a integer as well, right? That int right there. And that should be it. So we can go ahead and save this. And if I go ahead and hit that run button, it should compile this with no error and give us a exe that we can work with. Hello world. Cool. So you guys can see it did open up a hello world in our command prompt, right? It created this example.exe, right? I can go ahead and close this window. If I opened up Explorer in our current directory, right, we can see the PE deep dive, and you can see the exe right there. Cool. So what I'm going to do is I kind of want to give you guys better context of the PE files and their like associated parts, if you will, right? So let's go ahead and open up the PE file in something like a hex editor. I think that can kind of be a good first gauge of what we're doing. So I'll go ahead and drag our exe file into here. So yeah, I want you guys to kind of like start noticing stuff. So do you guys see anything in here, right? So this is obviously the hexadecimal codec, and then this is the ASCII representation of those hexadecimal values, right? But do you guys see anything that kind of stands out to you guys? If you guys didn't see anything, I'll kind of point some stuff out, right? So MZ is right there, and MZ is the magic bytes. It's the initials of the developer of the portable executable file, I believe. And you'll also see this program cannot be run in DOS mode. This is in every portable executable, right? Whether it's a exe or a DLL, which we will get into later. This is just the executable kind of standard, and these are the bytes that let the kernel know that, hey, this is an exe, this is the DLL, etc. Right? So if you guys are kind of confused right now, I'll kind of slow down, right? So an exe is an executable. It's a program, right? It is just like everything you work with. Firefox is an executable. Discord is an executable. This File Explorer is an executable, right? When I open Explorer, it's actually just explorer.exe, right? And that's going to open up Explorer, right? It is a executable, right? So all these executables, right, they have imports, right? They are importing stuff, right? You can see how it's including the IO stream, right? They import stuff into these programs to use. Those imports come from DLLs. DLLs are the libraries that these EXEs are pulling from. We'll go deep dive into DLLs in a little bit, but for now, just kind of understand that an EXE is just a program, right? And it is an executable program for the Windows operating system. Cool. So if we go back to our hex editor, right, you'll notice, right, these two things in here. You'll also notice some stuff kind of popping up down here, right? You can see .text, .rdata, .data, .pdata, .idata, rdata, right? You'll see a lot of these little things, relock, right? So you may be wondering what exactly those are, right? So allow me to kind of help you guys understand by using a different program, right? We're going to use something called PE-bear. PE-bear. Cool. And I'll pull out our example.exe and just drag it into here. Cool. So now, again, this is just another way to view portable executables, right? We can see that we have example.exe right here. And if we go to the header, right, you remember how there's the headers and the sections, right? You can see sections right there. You can see the headers up here, right? So if we go to the header, right, you can already see the MZ again, right, those magic bytes. And then you can see that this program cannot be run in DOS mode in this little ASCII table right here, right? Cool. So what we can kind of get from this, right, is just like a lot of the intended information regarding the executable, right? So let's go to like the .text section, right? The .text section is actually the same exact thing for the most part as this main function right here, right? Your main code is going to become that .text section. So the .text section is referent to the main code of the program, the main thing that executes, the main thing that gets run, right? There's other areas within the executable as well. So there's rdata, which is, I believe, read-only data, right? And then there's .data. And your .data and your, I guess, technically your rdata as well are information that's included here, right? So if you were to make a variable here, like int x equals 15 or something like that, right? If you were to make this variable here, this variable would be included with the program. In fact, we can actually see some of the data within our hex editor as well, right? If we search for our hello in our hello world, right? You guys can see hello world right there in our executable, right? It is right here, hello world. One way you can actually see a lot of these strings and stuff as well is to use a program referred to as strings, right? If I go into development and the PE deep dive, right? I'm going to use floss, but on Windows, on Linux, there's also the strings program as well. But if I do floss on our example.exe, and we can kind of just let this run, right? Basically, it's going to pull out all these strings. So all these like hello world and then unknown exception, like all these words that we can pull out of the program is what this is going to start pulling out for us, right? And you can kind of see a lot of these really cool spaces. Fun fact, these are called code caves, all these zeros, right? All these null bytes. You can actually embed code into there for malware, Trojans, shellcode, some other cool things. We'll probably cover some of that on the channel if you guys are interested, but that's a really cool thing you can kind of do if you want to make some basic Trojans and stuff. You can go to the .text section, kind of get an idea of its imports, right? Because first of all, the imports are super important when it comes to the actual executable, because the executable is getting imports from the DLL, right? The DLL is just a library, right, that it's pulling those imports right from. So if we had a DLL here, we would check the exports, but it doesn't have any exports because, again, it's an executable. We will, again, cover DLLs shortly, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys a good overview, right? That's kind of basically it when it comes to the data that's featured here. We also have relock. This is just data that tells the operating system to just lock the base address of the executable. That's kind of stuff that's kind of a little bit more complex as we go down, but ultimately it just kind of allocates its area of memory, if you kind of want to think about it like that. Cool. So yeah, this is a lot of the good kind of general overview information, right? Again, with malware, we can do a lot of cool things as well. We can, I don't know, embed shellcode in your .text section, your data section, even your resources section. I won't cover resources sections, but if you have like an icon, you see how this icon is in the top left, right? That's a resource of the executable, right? So that resource we can embed malware into and have it be loaded into memory, some other stuff. I'll kind of cover that down the road if that's something that kind of interests you guys. You guys can, again, see a lot of the, contents of the executable, right? I wish I saved this to a file so I could show you the hello world it probably pulled out of there. You guys can see the hello world that it pulled out of the binary, right? Hello world from our C++ code. And when it got compiled, we can actually pull it out of the exe. We can also see IOStream, right? That's the library that we're using right here. You can also get a lot of cool information about the binary at hand, right? So yeah, that's enough with executables. Let's kind of start going into the DLL stuff. Let's go ahead and start working on our DLL file itself, right? So the DLL file, again, is just a library, right? It's just holding information for our example.exe. Actually, I don't like the name DLL.c. We can actually just move DLL.c to example DLL, just to make it kind of consistent across the board. Let's open up our example.dll, and the first thing I want to do is we want to include the windows.h file, so that way we can use parts of the Windows API. Then we're going to do a pragma comment. Oh my God, if I could only type, that'd be great. Pragma, there you go. Comment lib user 32. So we're just using it so we can have access to that library. Cool. So let's go ahead and get started with the actual, DLL file. I'm sure a lot of people have less experience with the actual DLL side of things. I'll leave some stuff in the comments. All right. So I'm sure that, this is pretty new to a lot of people. And again, I can't, explain everything. But if you guys refer to the documentation of Windows API and Windows 32 and stuff like that, you'll be able to kind of see a lot of the important information that kind of teaches you a lot about the system. Basically, this is just like a base template I'm using just to create a basic DLL, right? So the first thing I want to do is actually realize when we're being attached to a process, right? This is going to be a very, very basic proof of concept for our, basically, I just want this DLL to give us like a message. We'll do like a message box, and it will just pop up a message box saying like, a message from us. Basically, this DLL main, right? You know how we have the main function in C or in our executables, right? We also have a main function with our DLLs, right? Message box. All right, and then the first parameter is null. Our second message is just the message we want to have in our message box. Hello from Cosmo. Hello from Cosmo, right? So that's just what we're saying in our message box. And then right under that, we can just have like Cosmodium CS in our title. So this is going to be the title bar of the actual message. And then we can actually give some additional context. In fact, I'll go ahead and show you guys. I think I have the message box stuff right here. Again, right, it's just all Windows documentation. So if you kind of want to get a better idea of how to use your message box, you can do, just refer to the documentation. Windows documentation is the best resource for, working with Windows 32 API and such. And also Google, right? If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you can always just, practice your ingenuity skills and just Google it. But yeah, so if we're going back to this, right, the last thing we need is the actual icon. So we'll just use the, which one do we want to use? I'd probably just use the icon error. Okay, so that's just, we're going to have the icon of the error sign, and then the OK is just going to be our out. So once that's done, we can go ahead and hit break, and then we can actually just return true after this. So this is the basic DLL, right? This is just, it's a pretty straightforward process. I'll kind of just go over it really quickly, right? Just like your normal executables, we're just doing an include and a pragma, right? Just to use the Windows 32 API to our best capabilities. Then we're creating a Boolean type of our Win API and our DLL main function. So this is just like how we have this int main right here. It's just like that, how we have the main function. These are all Windows 32 data types that are kind of just required for the actual DLL. And the most important thing you kind of just need to note is this, right? So in our actual main function, we're just creating a message box, right? In this message box, we're just saying hello from Cosmo as the message. The title is going to be Cosmodium CS, and the icon is going to be the error icon, and the acceptance is going to be the OK. So you just hit OK as the kind of, to accept the DLL or to accept the message. Then we could break and just return our appropriate data type, which is Boolean, and that should be it, right? So that is how we can actually do the DLL, right? If I hit that run, it's going to try to compile it as an exe, and we don't want to compile as an exe, right? So we're going to use our cl.exe, and then /d underscore user DLL, and then /d underscore win DLL. And then we want to do the actual DLL name. So DLL or example DLL.c. And then we want to actually do a /link. I think it's like a /link /DLL. Whoops. And the /out. And then we'll just call this, Cosmo.dll. Just as a way to kind of, denote it. Cool. So, right, if I output it to Cosmo.dll, right, you guys can see we have a Cosmo.dll here now, right? We can open up our hex editor. If you guys don't have a default hex editor, there's one in the extension store. You can literally just search up hex editor. It's not going to be as good as a dedicated one, but it's one you guys can use if you guys want. So you guys can just like click on our DLL here. You can just open with the hex editor, and boom, right? So you can see MC and DLL. I don't really like to use this one too much. It's just kind of a good practical one to have on me. But again, you guys can use whatever preferred method you want, right? So real quick, let's go ahead and play around with this DLL. So the first thing I'm going to do is take Cosmo.dll, and I'm going to throw it in here, right? So if we look at Cosmo.dll, we look at the DOS header, right? You can see again MZ, the magic bytes that we also see in the exe. And again, you can see that this program cannot be run in DOS mode. That's right in the DOS step right here. Cool. So you can also see that again that this is a portable executable file, right? But if we were to go ahead and go in our file explorer, right? If we click on example.exe, it's going to, it's going to pop up a hello world. It's just going to be really quickly. Maybe if I just type the name. Yeah, there you go. Cool. So if we run example.exe, it says hello world, right? But if we try to run the cosmo.dll, this file, right, there's no app associated with it, right? It's a DLL, it's a library. It has exports, right? So we can actually look at the exports of the DLL. So if we want to see the exports of our DLL, we can use a program called dump bin, and then we can do /exports on our cosmo.dll, right? So if we run that, we can see a lot of all this information right here. And there's not too much because we don't have a lot of other functions in here, right? We just really have our main, text section, our actual executable section of the DLL, right? So, I mean, if you wanted to, right, you can do something like run DLL32, which is a program you can use to, execute the programs of a DLL, right? You have to actually add the function name. So if we do add the .text, okay, cool. And you can see it opens up the hello from Cosmo message with the Cosmodium CS title, the error icon, and the OK message, right? So if we go back to our program, we can see that it says hello from Cosmo right here, right? We can compare and contrast our message box. So hello from Cosmo is the message, and we can see that right there. Cosmodium CS is the title, which we can see right there. The icon error, we should see right there. And then that OK as a response, you can see right there. So you can see all the appropriate details that we put in from our DLL into this program. And what's even more interesting is that, again, this is, this is the DLL main, right? This is the main section of the code, which is why the .text section is what executed, right? So we'd use the .text, and you can see, right, it executes our hello from Cosmo message box. The last thing I'm going to kind of show you guys is how you can actually incorporate this into something like our Hello World program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a new section right here. We're going to do an include, and then we're going to also use the windows.h import. On top of that, what we're going to do is just go all the way down right before we kind of continue the program. And what I want to do is add our area where we actually import our DLL. So we'll do an HI instance of HDLL. And then our DLL is going to be equal to load library. And then we're going to load that text section. Remember that text section? Yep. And then we're going to load from Cosmo.dll, right? So at the end of here, I can just go ahead and close it off. And that's it, right? So now we're just putting in this DLL, and we're loading the text section of our library, Cosmo.dll. Now, if we look in here, because this is the main code, this is the text section, when we load this and it's attached to a process, right? If the DLL is attached to a process, and that process will be our sample.exe right here. If this DLL is attached to that process, it will run the message box, right? So let's go ahead and compile our C++ code. I'll just go ahead and hit that run. And boom. So not only does it open up Hello World, but it also opens up the little message box, because in our C program or our C++ program, we print out Hello World, and then we load the library Cosmo.dll, right? And because we loaded that library and it got attached to that process, it opened that message box. So hopefully this was kind of a good insight and understanding of the difference between like EXEs, DLLs, and some of the basics and kind of like structure of the portable executable system. I'll kind of use this video as a basis to kind of help you guys understand future videos on malware topics and stuff, so you guys know what I'm talking about. So yeah, hopefully this was kind of a good brief insight and stuff like that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and check out the future content or any other content that we already have here. Thank you so much, and happy hacking.